Click the links for Odyssey, Bit Chute, or to support the channel on Coffee. The various other links. Oh, and Telegram too. I just grabbed a comic, a recent comic to use as an example. High Republic has got two comics. This one's kind of written for teenagers or the older teens, I guess. And the other High Republic has a better art style. I hope the artist isn't listening to this. This art's great too, but the other High Republic's got better art, but it's written for a kind of a younger audience. The other one, the kind of ongoing storyline for a year has been a little blonde boy is bad and a little POC girl is good, and the blonde boy is the betrayer and the evil one who turns to the dark side. And the little POC, there's two POC girls who have to fight the little blonde Aryan Hitler stereotype out of like German central casting. That's gone on for a year now. It's just as ridiculous as it sounds. So this High Republic is written for an older teenage audience, and the theme is women have to degrade and humiliate the male characters, which, at least to be fair, they're not human. They're all anthropomorphic aliens. And in general, anthropomorphic aliens are kind of hard to really identify with when you got too many aliens in a show, in a story. And this is the weird thing with SJWs. They paint themselves in a corner. Both comics have got a heavy alien presence. So the two identifiable humans are the African girl with the shaved side of her head and the Aryan stereotype or Nordic stereotype, blonde hair, blue eyed. They're the two characters who are in the forefront, and they have to degrade, belittle, humiliate, and constantly correct the male characters. It's almost to the point of being some kind of like BDSM kink, where I wonder who wrote this. Like if they have some kind of fantasy where it's almost to the point of being kind of weird. You can read it for yourself and tell me if I'm on the right track with this. To have, it's on issue 14, and it's like all 14 issues have got two female characters running around. And the art is cool, like the setting is cool. It's very much a Star Wars setting. But who's your target audience here? Because it's usually going to be males, right? That's like 95% of people who buy comics. Two female protagonists, one with the side of the head shaved. That's going to be a hard sell. Comics are selling just fine. Are they really? Because I have my doubts. But, I'll take you at your word. If you say comics are selling just fine, it's kind of weird because the comic book stores themselves, the brick and mortar places, they've been going out of business over the past few years. So it's weird. You got like these two things on opposite ends of the spectrum. You're saying the product itself is selling well, but the place where they sell the product is going out of business. So I'm not sure how that works. Oh, you're probably selling them online, right? So you're saying that you're selling a digital comic for $4 when you could just go sail the high seas and get the same thing for free. Because usually what keeps comic books alive is there's a big part of people are buying the product because they're collecting the thing itself, the physical object, the res, not because they're reading the stories, because the stories are pretty much just cultural Bolshevism. But, if they say comics are selling well, I'll take them at their word. I can't imagine that there's so many people who are this brain damaged to want to read this kind of propaganda. But if they're out there, hey, good for them, I guess. Okay, so today in comics news, I can't draw at all, but I can actually sculpt pretty well for some reason. But if I drew or sculpted something, and then somebody came along and corrected it, I'd be a little bit confused. Like, do I sign my name and I note that the art was edited by some bundle of sticks at Marvel? How do you attribute that? Because with writing, you go out of your way to find an editor because you have to pay for an editor. It's like a voluntary transaction. You want an editor to fix mistakes in the writing, but art's a little bit different. It's kind of a complete project in and of itself. And when I was reading comics, I was always a story person, not an art person. So I didn't notice that these kind of machinations have been going on for a while, where art is always it has been corrected in quotations by other artists because the editor wanted a different vibe. Which I guess is kind of the Image, why Image, maybe one of the reasons Image came along to get a little bit more freedom. But, Image has got its own problems as well. But, are you gonna, how do you attribute that art when it's like Joe Smith drew the art, the original art, but then someone else came along and fixed it. It's like The Shining. Jack Nicholson in the book, I think he's talking about he needs to correct them with an axe. How do you attribute? It's like, yeah, two people worked on the art. That's kind of weird. And so one person drew something cool, and another person came and made some horrific monster. Were you trying to make it look like an abomination? Because that's kind of successfully what you did. Anyway, so it kind of reminds me, there was a very similar argument a couple years ago on Twitter where some SJW was outraged about the slit eye style on some modern art. Then someone came along and showed Japanese art over the past few hundred years, and you can Google it for yourself. The eyes are all slits. That's the art style they use. For some reason, SJWs are triggered that Eastern Eurasians look different from Western Eurasians, because different tribes of humans are different, but that seems to shock and terrify them. Like, are they really terrified, or they just want attention? Though, to be fair, when Japanese draw manga, they use more Occidental features. You'd have to ask them why they do it. Maybe the SJWs will accuse the Japanese of cultural appropriation of the Occidental eye shape, at which point the Japanese will laugh and tell them to worry about their own country, hellhole America, where the current fad is, and I kid you not, to mutilate and sterilize your children. It's like nobody learned from 1930s Germany. Anyway, so America has art, and most of it sucks. You can look at Marvel and DC for examples. Everyone is ugly stick figures. The women look like boys, probably because the artists at Marvel want to bang little boys. Should I have edited that out? All right, this is a pretty good example of the current vibe. It's not just Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse. It's all. This is one example of shapeless women wearing. She's wearing pants, and then she's wearing like she's wearing an overcloak, and then a skirt, and then like an under jacket, and then a vest, and then a shirt. Why? Because it feels Star Warsy to them to put them in 5 layers of clothing. Freaking bizarre. Anyway, so they're these formless, shapeless stick figure women, because they say they're women, and the male character who they constantly degrade and humiliate is this lizard person who's like this big hulking muscle-bound creature who's also a Jedi, but he's like the least effective. You need these skinny B-cup women to lead the way. Again, males who are buying comics are not going to be into this, which is probably why I don't know what the sales of this would be. Is dog shit a technical term? Because that's probably where they are. Anyway, American comics are laughably bad. Japan has beautiful characters doing cool things. America has ugly BLT, POC purse puppies who really hate blonde-haired, blue-eyed people. That is literally half the issues. Hey, can we see a POC or POC? I'm editing on the fly. Criminal gangbanger? Nope, best we can do is a blonde, blue-eyed woman who's dropping N-bombs in like every other issue. It's odd that they're not concerned about all the anti-white hate and microaggressions. It's like it only goes one way. You know, European people have feelings too. No, they're untermensch. American comics and art, it goes out of its way to be ugly and stupid. There's no shortage of example. You don't have to pay for it. You can go sail the high, though I'm not saying you shouldn't pay for it, but I mean, for an example, if you want to sail the high seas, you definitely could. And the thing is, it's not worth paying for it, and it's not worth sailing because the stories are bad. And you don't own the art in either digital format. It's like, oh, great, you've got a JPEG. Great. No, people want the thing itself, and this stuff is not worth paying $4 for in any format. Anyway, they go out of their way to be ugly and stupid because the people who run the industry are Lucifer-worshipping Bolsheviks who sacrifice baby blood to Moloch. Go pick up a dozen of the latest issues of anything mainstream. What's mainstream that's out? The Spider-Man, Captain America, Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel. Go scroll through the latest issues of that, and you kind of wonder, this comic industry doesn't seem to be doing too well. Oh no, we've got some new thing where, oh god, they have the 2099 thing out. It's a purple-haired, vaguely non-European girl with shaved side of her heads, wearing flowing cloaks that looks like nothing is nothing, will appeal to no one and nobody, and will sell, 14,000 copies. Oh, stunning and brave, stunning and brave. So why'd you do her hair purple? Why'd you do her hair purple? That seems a bit on the... And you shaved the side of the head, too. And you gave her flowing cloaks on top of vests, on top of cloaks, so you can pretend she doesn't have titties or hips. Why'd you do that? Because we painted ourselves into a corner. Everything has to be ugly and stupid. Oh, that seems to be American comics pretty well in a nutshell. Anyway, you see these stick figure women, purse puppies, soy boys. Every other issue has a Kathleen Kennedy club who's running around deleting POC, BLT purse puppies, because that's what happens in Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, Oakland, and Memphis. In those cities, crimes are caused by these Hugo Boss kids. No, really. I mean, you can turn on your local news. Oh, it actually doesn't show that. Weird. So if you want an example, go read issue 1 of Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk. I think it came out, 4 years ago. You can find it. It's a blonde, blue-eyed, Aryan central casting kid gang terrorizing an American city. Has Al Ewing ever been to America? Because blonde people are awesome. If you're in a town with 100% European people, you're in the safest town in America. Because, the reason this happens is that they're the only group that doesn't advocate to advance their own interests. So they're constantly degraded and humiliated. Hopefully people will wake up to that so you can start getting better product. But honestly, I don't know. Like, the bread and circuses are pretty intense, Sephoric. So Mark Waid and Kwanzaa, they had a comic set in Arizona, and it sold like 900 copies. 90% of the people in the comic were like Western European, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, red-haired, green-eyed, in Arizona. Apparently, Mark Waid, I think he lives in Southern California, has never actually been to Arizona or hasn't been there in the past 50 years. It's indistinguishable from Mexico now. And the Malamunsay acts are definitely not caused by blonde people. But American comics must play by the rules of, the Frankfurt School, Saul Alinsky, and the cultural Bolsheviks. These are parasites that are only happy when they eat away at the foundation of a structure and they destroy it. And with comics, they've really painted themselves into a corner. They don't know what to do. So they're left with, like I described, that Star Wars, not that Star Wars girl, but that Star Wars woman who was in the previous comics, So, what does she look like? I don't know. She's so covered up, I can't tell what she looks like. Or the 2099 comic, shaved side of the heads. I'm noticing a common theme with shaved side of the heads and vaguely non-European characters. And it's how do people identify with the character if they don't see themselves in the character? It's they don't want to use European characters because they hate them, and they don't want to use, obviously, a specific race for whatever reason. So they use these kind of muddish characters that nobody identifies with. It's not like they think, oh, well, everyone will identify with it. No, it just turns out that you exclude everybody when you do that kind of thing. And the thing is, they don't care that the Mark Waid Kwanzaa comic only sold 1,000 copies. I think it went, I don't know how many issues it went. At the end, it was probably below 1,000. People like Mark Waid and Kwanzaa will lose money so that they can hate European people. They're like pit bulls who will rescue a child from a burning building so they can just maul it to death. It doesn't have to make sense. It's in their DNA. They have to destroy or they go into withdrawal. Oh, I won't say it, though. I was going to say it. You can't even make jokes on YouTube without the algorithm picking it up, so I just won't say. God, YouTube is just so full of pussies right now. Comicsgate broke these people. It was kind of like a double whammy of Trump derangement syndrome and Comicsgate. Richard Meyer made fun of their stupid comics. So think about that. He's talking about the publicly available product, and he's criticizing it, and he's calling it stupid, rightfully so, because it is very stupid. So what happened, and this was a couple years ago when this all happened, was the people whose comics was product was getting made fun of, they got freaking triggered, and they went after Myers and his family personally. So, that's known as an ad hominem attack. Attack the argument, in this case, the thing that's being debated, the comic book, but they can't do that. They can't, SCWs will never look at a product, a comic or a movie or a story and say, oh, we like this. They will criticize the person criticizing the product. because they don't like the original product. There's nothing. That's why they get so triggered over 2015 Star Wars, because there was nothing to like about Star Wars. It was just a movie made by a committee, and it's kind of the same thing with comics. He should have just called himself Toyota Kawasaki-san, and identified as a Japanese woman. Konnichiwa, sanyo. Then the slit eyes would probably be okay. And, it's what Asians look like. Asians are, a Frenchman is a Frenchman, and a Japanese is Japanese. They have slightly different eye features. Reality seems to be too much to bear for these people. And, I don't know if I can say slitty on YouTube, because it sounds like something sexual. Anything. Another weird thing about this is they publicly had this Twitter fight, which was kind of odd. It felt like adults, they never kind of left the high school mentality, but I don't know, that's Twitter. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next episode.